Good evening. This is Defacto Review, a weekly analysis of Mongolia's latest political, economic, and social issues by economist and columnist Mr. D.Jargalsaikhan.
Good evening.
And I'll be your host, Tikshirult. Today's topics are on the President's visits to Samarkand, Uzbekistan, and the UN General Assembly, the Prime Minister's visit to the United Kingdom, and Mining Week 2022. So this week has been a very busy week for our President as he traveled to Samarkand for the 22nd meeting of the Council of Heads of State of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The Mongolian President participated in the summit representing Mongolia as an observer state, and during his participation in the summit, the President met with many foreign leaders, such as the Secretary General of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Mr. Zhang Ming, President of Uzbekistan, Mr. Shavkat Mirziyoyev, the Undersecretary General of the United Nations, Ms. Armida Salsia Alice Jabana, and furthermore, the President attended the 6th tripartite meeting of the heads of state of Mongolia, Russia, and China with his counterparts Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. They discussed issues such as the Mongolia-Russia-China Economic Corridor Program, the Asia Highway Network, the construction of a gas pipeline through Mongolia, and the Irtenburg and Egg River hydropower plants. And this week, the President addressed the general debate of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly, which was held under the theme, A Watershed Moment, Transformative Solutions to Interlocking Challenges. So regarding the SCO meeting, or the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, what does it mean for Mongolia to be an observer state of this organization?
Yes, Mongolia is observer, though the other countries are kind of suggesting very warmly us to be a member. Mm-hmm. But there is a reason not to be a member. By our constitutions, we are to be a neutral country somehow, and we have big discussions inside of the society about whether we will be inside of this organization or not, because there is not full understanding among the people. Since it's a democratic country, our president said that too. Our president met during this meeting the Secretary General of the Shanghai Organization of Cooperation, which used to be a Russian person before. Now it's a Chinese person, to whom our president said that we don't have consensus in society about this organization, and until we have full understanding, we cannot be a full member, and we will continue our observer. Well, what a difference! Because this is an organization that initially started to solve the issues related to border conflicts. And paradoxically enough, during this meeting in Samarkand, there was a conflict fighting in between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. At the border, they were exchanging fires and they were using weapons, and certain human life is lost, etc. And some people have left that meeting to take care of the issue at the border. So it itself also shows that Shanghai Organization of Cooperation is not completely feeling their first aim to have this problem solved, borders problem. And plus, there is certain things Mongolia is interested to cooperate. It's a matter of extremists, separatists, terrorists. None of them are in Mongolia, but however, it is spillover of these conflicts may come to Mongolia, and in that case, we need their help. So in that way, in that context, Mongolia can be and should be an observer member of this organization, not a full member, because it became not only from this border issue solving aim, but it became kind of a military union where they will try to solve the conflict if a member country comes into the conflict. So that's why we are very careful, and we have been discussing it for quite some time. Because it's by nature, it's a democratic country, whatever decisions if the president makes somewhere. If it is not accepted by the people, it will not go on. That is very well-known fact for a democratic country. So that's why it was, I think, another good chance to meet the members of these organizations, also in particular the leaders of those countries neighboring to Mongolia. The most important part of that meeting was this 6th trilateral meeting of 3 countries. And it's a very nice opportunity for a country like Mongolia, squeezed in between 2 countries, to meet at the level of president. And that's what you have said about these economic projects. They had discussed that again.
How about the president's visit to the UN General Assembly? Because he delivered a keynote speech that was about 20 minutes long, I think. What were your takeaways from that speech?
Well, this is a very typical speech of Mongolia, expressing our position on many international issues, including peacekeeping. And this year it was the 30th anniversary of Mongolia declaring being non-nuclear status country. And it was a good reason to explain why we are there, and at this time in particular when the war is happening. And the other thing was also to introduce about our green economy, about another time to talk about the Billion Trees Initiative by the President himself. And every year at the UN Conference of General Assembly, many leaders of many countries come, almost all countries, either Prime Minister or President comes. And this time, and last time also, our President come there. So it was a good occasion for Mongolia to express our positions on many international issues. So that's another attempt of Mongolia to show itself as a country of a multipolar world, and a country which has neutral positions on many issues. So I think by importance is another good occasion for Mongolia to strengthening its international relations based on the policies reflected in our constitutions. And Mongolia is always for peaceful relations, mutually beneficial economic cooperation with all countries, not only with our 2 neighbors, but other countries which is called third neighbors. So it was important international event for Mongolia, all these events of last week.
The Prime Minister made a visit to the United Kingdom last week. Prime Minister of Mongolia, Oyun Erten, attended the state funeral of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom and Great Britain and Northern Ireland, which was held in London, along with more than 500 heads of state and government and other foreign dignitaries that attended the funeral. The United Kingdom was the first Western country to establish diplomatic relations with Mongolia and has continually supported Mongolia's transition to democracy. So what was the significance of this trip, and how has the relations between Mongolia and the United Kingdom been since making diplomatic relations, since establishing this diplomatic relations in 1963?
You know, there are almost 200 countries, high-ranking officials representing their own people, their condolences to the British people on the occasion of Queen Elizabeth II's death. And there was 2 ceremonies. One was in the Westminster Abbey, where our Prime Minister had participated, and also some of the delegates went to Lancaster Castle to the north of England, where there was a book of condolences where he had signed expressing our Mongolian people's condolences in this book. And this very event itself is also an example of Mongolian, not only Mongolian foreign policy, in particular towards our third neighbor. So it was one of the must that the people are glad that our Prime Minister went there. And also, just before this event, our Prime Minister went, remember, to Vladivostok for Eastern Economic Forum. At this time in what happened in Russia, now what's happening, and still Mongolia was one of the few countries participating in this event. So after Russia, he went to England on that unfortunate occasion, but he was expressing our will foreign relations. So in that sense, it was very important. As you said, the United Kingdom had played an important role for modern Mongolian position in the world. And the United Kingdom was one of the first members supporting our entrance into the UN as a member in 1961. And just soon after, it was the first country to open their embassy in Mongolia. And I remember during the Cold War time, it was only the place where foreigners, very few, coming and experiencing this kind of freedom of speech in the embassy. And there was even a bar in the embassy where all foreign expatriates from non-socialist countries coming together. And since that, there was a G7 meeting in 1990 that were in London, and they have been. UK was appealing other members of G7 to support Mongolia, democracy in Mongolia, which was very encouraging for those people who were fighting for democracy in this country. And so our democracy, our current prosperity is in a certain way connected with the UK. That's why it was very important. So two things. One is after Russia, the Prime Minister had visited. Secondly, we have highlighted again the role of the UK in developing modern Mongolia. And also, by the way, our Prime Minister had met, because there's so many delegates from many countries, 200 heads of also many countries, he had also, aside of the meeting, of the ceremony, he met a Mongolian diaspora in London. We have quite some Mongolians living in the UK, and 40 of them have met Prime Minister. And it was a chance for the Prime Minister to share his vision about Mongolia, Vision 2050, and the new revival policy for next 10 years. And because this whole thing is to be supported not only Mongolians inside, but everybody from who is living outside of Mongolia.
Let's move on to our next topic, which is something that's happening at home here in Mongolia. In terms of mining, December 25th, 1922 was the day that the people's government decided to make the Natlakh coal mine a state-owned mine, and that day is considered to be the inception of the modern mining industry in Mongolia, making this year the 100th anniversary of the mining sector, which is the main driver of Mongolia's economy. So in anticipation of this event, the Ministry of Mining and Heavy Industry and Oyutatla jointly organized the first ever Mining Week event this past week at the Shangri-La Hotel. So a mining industry policy workshop, an investment conference, safety first conference, a responsible mining workshop, an underground mining symposium, and a supplier expo were among the events that were held during this week. So I'm aware that you took part in this event yourself. So what were your takeaways, and why does 100 years of the mining sector mean such a big deal to Mongolia?
It is a big deal, as you said. Why? Mining is 1/4 of our economy, and 1/4 of our, almost 23%, 1/4 of our budget revenue. Over the 90% of our export earnings. So it's so important sector, and yet we need to tune our policy a lot towards the industry in order to invite more foreign direct investment. Because foreign direct investment was the base of Mongolian current development. 2011 was the peak year of foreign direct investment. Today we have a world-class mine, Oyutatla mine, which is the deepest, almost, it's 1.5 kilometer deep, 1.3 kilometer deep, almost a mile deep mine. and it is using the whole digital means. And it's a very new technology, underground block caving technology. And there are a lot of things to celebrate. As you said, 100 years, and now the mining is so important, plays so important role in our economy, in our life. So it's so important to discuss comprehensive whole issues related to mines. There are so many issues we need to solve, and all these issues were addressed during the first ever week, Mining Week. And from this year, it will be organized every year, where all stakeholders, politicians, lawmakers, miners, all the supply chain, all get together. And this time, why is so important? Because this time we discuss issues of changes in mining law, changes in foreign direct investment, in particular addressing issues like royalty. Royalty, many companies, the head of Mining Association, Mr. D.Jargalsaikhan, said that though the royalty by the document is 3.5 to 5%, but actually it's 20%. Why? Because at every value chain step, they pay royalty, and it all the way comes to 20% of whatever they are producing. So it's very, very high. It's the one major point, and plus the royalty sharing issue. How much of them is going to the local herds? For example, the local bag sum, where they don't feel the result of all this mining process which took their pasture land. So that process is very long, and not coming substantially to the local people. That's one issue, which, by the way, raises a lot discontent by local herdsmen. In their own turn, they are opposing mining. One of the reasons why, for example, mining exploration is going on so slow in the country is that. And by the way, they addressed the issue of mining production license issue, because this is very for short term, though the feasibility study says it will take 30 years, say, for exploring or for producing, but the license is given only for 10 years. It takes quite some work to extend the license, for example.
So there's a lot of contradictions between the legislation for each process of mining.
Yes, and it happened also, we have brand new mining minister. Minister Commentator is new, and he said he will support all responsible mining. With that, there is an issue. Larger companies, they have to be responsible anyway, because they are listed companies, and the investors demand the responsible mining. How about the medium and smaller size minings? Still, there are many cases where they have a very much irresponsible attitude to mining. So that issue was addressed. The other issue I like it they addressed is about the processing. Not only just digging it out and selling, but how about we add value inside of the country? And a good example was in the case of Achitik, which is producing cathode copper from the waste. They call it tailing. Each mine has a waste in two forms. Either it's a dump or it's tailing. When in the case of a dump, for example, the Achitik is using the liquid, all goes down, and they produce that liquid, which is floated afterwards, and then through cathode method, they are producing pure copper. The plates, big plates, and by the way, only 80% of whatever we have produced copper is produced by this company. So the first time they discussed about the need of processing deeper the products. If you just sell, say, 25% of concentrate, 1 ton concentrate, we sell at $2,000. If we produce this cathode, it will be $6,000, $8,000. But if even they have now, in Mongolia, we have the first copper powder plant, or manufacturing plant, where they make a powder out of copper. That means you can put into any shape depending on the mold. In that case, it will cost $10,000. So each mine dump waste to be used. And also they have raised the issue of the water consumption, how to manage optimally water, how to recycle it. What is the laws, regulations in Mongolia that is enduring this kind of process? The most important, the other part was this underground mine. We talked, it's 1,300 meter down, and Mongolia is one of the first country in the world to process that deep the ore materials, and now Mongolia will be kind of knowledge center of deep underground mining. That was the discussions they had.
It was pointed out that once the mine is done, that it would be the 4th largest copper mine in the world, right? So
yeah, one is the issue. Yes, it's undoubtedly because reserve is big. It will be one of the largest, number 4. But the issue is this around deep underground mine. We will have a brand new industry. We will have professionals who can work in similar mines all around the world. So we will prepare our own skilled professionals. The other thing during this week was important. I visited. It was a OT suppliers exhibition, 2022, first time and large one. And Oyu Tolgo spent so far $4 billion for Mongolia, for the mine. And out of them, some 80% suppliers are Mongolians. And I saw many Mongolian companies starting to supply, and they have already, some of them have already 5 to 10 years experiences, all work the security, clothes, and a lot gloves, shoes, and many things. Whatever the mine demands are now being produced by Mongolians, and some of them are already being so big that they are ready to supply other countries. In fact, the underground mine COO of the OT said that our suppliers are their first-class suppliers. And any company in the world can rely on that. That was a good remark, I guess. And mining, supply chain industries, that's what is going to be developed very strongly in the country. And I think down the road, our people can supply mines in China and Russia as well. In fact, all this OT participation and OT, what it's doing, was said by its CEO in our interview. Please watch.
It's been an exciting 5 months in the role, and I've spent my time getting to know all our many stakeholders as well as the employees and contractors at OT. Without them, we don't have a business. And my impressions are very positive. I can see the potential that Mongolia has, and I'm very excited to lead Oitalgoy for the next 5 years. Yes, I've worked in sustainability and environmental and social governance previously in my career, as well as operational leadership roles, and I'm very encouraged by the fact that the Oitalgoy board felt that somebody with a sustainability background would be the right person to be at the helm of this incredible organization. And I've made it one of my 4 key priority areas, naturally, because I feel environmental and social governance, and I believe environmental and social governance is at the core of a successful business strategy. At the end of the day, the role we play in broader society will determine our success or our failure. So it will be absolutely anchored as central to the Oitalgoy refreshed strategy. And yet today as well, we've already heard in the opening statements the importance that environmental and social governance plays, not just in Mongolia, but to showcase Mongolia as an attractive investment decision to the world. Well, there's a couple of objectives for us. So the first is to celebrate. I think we need to be proud of the 100 years that came before and to set ourselves up for the next 100 years. So my hopes are that partnerships and friendships form during this week. my hope is that we are able to showcase Mongolia as an attractive investment opportunity. And then I'm hoping that the conversations that are happening this week set us up for future success.
So let's hope that the mining sector continues to flourish for another 100 years and also bring success to other sectors that are surrounding mining.
Well, that depends on how Mongolia can use smartly the proceeds from mining industry. Only in that way, there is no other way to earn substantial income for Mongolia of the currency. And the issue is how much we use that for diversifying our economy. So I hope it will be good for the next 100 years.
That is all for this week. This has been Defacto Review, a weekly analysis of Mongolia's latest political, economic, and social issues by economist and columnist Mr. D.Jargalsaikhan.
Thank you very much for watching, for staying with us. Please watch again or other our programs, which is reflecting most important 3 events of last week in our website, jargaldefacto.com. Thank you very much again.